Hey, KU fans, welcome back to the KU Sports Hour here at KUsports.com, and I have a hunch that we're going to go a full hour today.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A full hour? We're not talking 36 minutes?
No, I like the 36 minutes. I do, but I feel like this is a full hour because I feel like, well, first of all, Benton, welcome back. Shane, welcome back.
I texted Shane. I was personally offended that you guys talked about the NBA extensively without me.
We did.
Just moved on as if I didn't even exist.
We did. It was and so I was on a new computer, and it was apparently the first time I had done Zoom on that computer, so there was no time limit. So I thought, without you especially, I thought we would have the 35-minute session that we did, or we've been doing the last several weeks. I thought I'd get like a little bit of a warning, like, hey, you got 10 minutes left. And the warning never came, and Shane just kept going. And then when I went and uploaded it, it was 48 minutes. So I figured out that must have been what happened. I got that first timer free. We could have done 4 or 5 hours, Shane.
Yeah, I'm hoping I used enough words on the last podcast that I just cannot talk this time and just let Benton carry us this time. And hopefully it gave me enough for a couple podcasts just to sit back and listen to Benton.
Yeah, well, let's both do that. I would love it. But yeah,
talk about Gordon Hayward.
There you go. We could probably spin that, right? There'd be a little Devontae Graham angle there. Yeah. Shane already wrote about LaMelo and Devontae.
I love that.
Yeah. It was, if you guys haven't seen it, for an undrafted player and a late first round pick, I don't think you possibly could have put any more draft coverage up than we did. So there's a lot of stuff on there. If you guys haven't seen that yet, Devon is headed to the Bulls, of course, and it appears to be a really good spot. And then Udoka, as Benton wrote, was in a really good spot. And then
the NBA comes at you fast.
No, he's still in a good spot.
Yeah, he definitely is. I think he had to know that too,
right?
Because he just got drafted, and obviously if you're playing right behind Rudy Gobert, that's ideal for a young center coming in. But now he's also going to be playing behind Derek Favors, which, I mean, he's still going to play.
Yeah.
He's their third center. Guys get hurt. There are blowouts. He's going to get opportunities. He just won't play quite as much as he would have if the Jazz had tried to sign a perimeter guy in free agency.
Yeah. So. Well, and they were always probably going to go get a big guy, right? I mean, that seemed like.
Yeah, probably so. But, I mean, Derek Favors used to play for the Jazz, and they know who he is, and they like him. So, yeah. I mean, like, they went and got a guy that they know is going to be their backup center.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it'll be a big-time developmental year anyway, and so, if anything, that might actually, in a weird sort of silver lining world, that might benefit Doak. I mean, like, there's almost no pressure on him now, and right. He can actually get acclimated and develop at his own pace. And yeah, you said it. They could get injured, or he could get thrown in there for other reasons. But, at this point, if everybody stays healthy and things like that, then he can just kind of work and focus on his game and stay sharp and develop that way. So plus he'll be seeing those guys in practice every single week, at least. I don't know if they practice every day. Probably not.
Yeah, probably not with a condensed schedule and that type of thing too.
Yeah, there'd be no reason to, which is so weird, right? It feels like it just ended with Shane's Lakers winning it all. And I saw, like, this is the second week in a row we've given Shane's Lakers podcast a plug, but I saw that Shane is already ready to crown the Lakers the 2021 champs too.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless LeBron gets hurt, they're winning it again.
It seems fair. They got a lot better. I mean, a lot better.
I think they did get better. I don't know that they got a lot better, but because they were so good defensively, it's going to be different.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, losing Rondo is as old and weird as he is. He was a huge part of their playoff run. I mean, man, as a guy who watched that whole Nuggets series and I watched quite a bit of the Lakers throughout. He just took over games like he used to do, and especially like you're saying, Benton, defensively. So they'll miss him for sure. But man, Montrezl Harrell, that's a nice piece. Who else they add, Shay?
I feel like this is a
Schroeder.
crossover pod. We're just talking Lakers.
Love it.
Marc Gasol. They
Yeah, they had
KCP.
Oh, yeah, Schrader, right, yeah. Whew. All right, well, let's get back to the reason we're here since Benton's so upset about the Lakers. Got his Celtics green on, and you just can't take it. They're going to pass them this year, right? Aren't they tied right now?
Yeah, 17 each.
Boy.
Which there is some controversy. Do you count the Minneapolis championships?
Do you count the Helms championships at KU?
I don't.
Right. Everyone listening does. Everyone watching does. So,
as a diehard, lifelong Lakers fan, I count them.
lifelong. Love it. All right, well, enough. If we go any more on that, people will stop listening. So let's get to it. What we're here to talk about, obviously, Kansas basketball. It is game week. The season is here, we think. And I think that's important because we've talked a lot in the last couple of weeks to Coach Self about just the idea of, is he worried about the season? Is he worried about COVID still and all these things? And, I mean, he's made no bones about it. He is very worried. I think he believes that they are going to have a season. I think he believes they'll piece it together somehow and find a way to get to March. And I believe that too. But when you look around the country right now and you see all these programs that are temporarily pausing their action or pulling out of tournaments. I mean, Wichita State, man, they traveled to an event, tested when they got there. A bunch of guys had it. I don't know if it was players or just staff. I didn't read that, but a bunch of people in their program had tested positive, and so they had to pull out. I mean, after traveling to the event. So as much as KU Gonzaga is on the docket for Thursday, I mean, until they're on the floor, until it's game time, until the ball goes up, I don't know that anything's certain right now. I mean, does it feel that way to you guys that this is just one big bubble of uncertainty and just kind of wait every hour and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I don't think we should have any instances that were like the Clemson Florida State debacle this weekend where like the game as of Friday was going to be played and then you get up on Saturday morning and it's not played.
Right.
I bet that could happen too. Like we can't rule anything out. But yeah, I mean, strange things are happening around the country, you know, with games getting canceled. Like you said, teams showing up for like these special events and then finding out, oh, well, we've got 2 or 3 people in our traveling party that have it. So I guess we're not going to play. So, I mean, to me, you can't rule anything out. I think you've set it up perfectly for Thursday, you know, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, Gonzaga's down there. We haven't heard anything about them having any issues yet. KU is traveling down there today, right? And
yeah, and I mean, that's
they'll
the
get
thing.
tested.
I've been looking. Like I've been checking Gonzaga's Twitter and their official website and all that stuff pretty regularly the last couple of days just because of what you just said. Like we haven't heard anything yet. And I mean, look, nobody's going to hide behind any of this, right? I mean, if a couple of guys test positive and you can't play, you're going to announce it immediately. It's not like, oh, well, maybe, you know, and so I think it's worth tracking nonstop. I mean, especially when that's our jobs. So I think what's crazy about it, and I want to get both your takes on this, is I think people are looking at this going, why is this so different than football? And not that football's been perfect, but football's played a pretty quote unquote smooth season in a lot of ways, especially in the Big 12. And you know, they've had instances where guys tested and obviously games got canceled. But I think it just seems like such a dramatic thing in basketball. Is it just because of roster size? I mean, we haven't played any games yet, so you can't say, well, it's because they're indoors. I mean, that is a difference once we get started, but that hasn't happened yet. So what's the biggest difference? Anybody know?
It would seem difficult to isolate. Like if you know someone has a COVID positive test, it would seem difficult to maybe isolate that person from the rest of the roster as quickly as possible and not affect anybody else. You know, whereas football, maybe that's more plausible because you're not in the same, you know, position rooms as someone else or whatever. I don't know. That would be my first guess. I mean, it obviously it comes down to just a smaller roster size, but I think it comes down to maybe being more difficult to isolate them from the rest of the team.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I think you're talking about 115 guys on a football team, and you're talking about 15 guys on a basketball team. So the likelihood of like you said, they're commingling and them hanging out close together, eating together rooming together, things like that. I mean, I think it just jacks everything up. And beyond that, if you can play a football game, you could miss 25 guys and still play a football game. You can't miss 6 and play a basketball game. I mean, maybe you could, but it gets much harder at that point. So I don't know, Ben, you followed obviously the KU trials and tribulations through the football season of this. Is it that simple that, hey, it's just a bigger roster and basketball doesn't have that luxury?
I think that has to be part of it. And I don't know. I also wonder if it seems like, nationwide, the numbers are kind of going up and stuff. So, I mean, I don't know if just generally speaking,
it's not a good time right now. I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, that has to be part of it too. And I wonder if, it seems like maybe some people are kind of fatigued about this whole quarantine thing and like taking things as seriously as you maybe should. So maybe that's part of it. And I don't know, to me though, I feel like programs like KU basketball and Gonzaga and Duke and places like that are going to be on top of everything.
Right.
I think when you start, but obviously if you're playing 26 or 27 games, and some of those are against programs that, this may not be like, this isn't their primary business in an athletic department. So to me, I'm sure KU is going to do a great job of trying to navigate this as best as they can, but you're going to run into issues just with scheduling. And I mean, and we're seeing that play out already, and the season hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, well, you can only control half of that equation, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, Duke didn't have their season opener canceled because they had problems. It was because of Gardner-Webb, and that's just something all teams, I mean, regardless of size, really all teams this season are probably going to have to live with that and deal with that. And Self's been very upfront about that. I mean, he is fully expecting interruptions. He is bracing for them. He's hoping like heck that it doesn't happen, but the odds just aren't good. You're talking about opponents. You're talking about officials. It's way more than just your team and taking care of your business, which if that were it, if it was just KU's got to take care of themselves, I think they would have a less than 1% chance of having interruptions. I mean, I think they would be on it. I think they would put the resources to it. I think they would be responsible about it. I mean, these guys, I mean, Christian Brown said it earlier this week when we talked to players about this matchup with Gonzaga. I mean, he said, look, we're just going to stay positive. I mean, we had a Final Four run and a possible national championship chance taken from us. Nothing can be worse than that, and he's obviously talking about last season. So I thought his perspective was terrific in that, because he's right. I mean, it doesn't sting as much if you can't play North Dakota State on December 5th because of COVID as it did having the entire chance to make a postseason run taken away from you. Really, like, snap your fingers and it's gone, So I thought that perspective was great. I think that idea and that mindset helps them stay positive. And like he said, just keep moving forward, keep focused on what's ahead and do what you can with what you got. So that's kind of the theme of the season. It'll be really remarkable to see how it all plays out, how many games they play, how many they don't, how many they try to reschedule, how many they just scrap entirely. I mean, on and on and on and on. I mean, this is life in the pandemic world. And in order to play, they're going to have to do some of that. So that's what we're here for, not the pandemic world, but to talk about the season. In addition to just the landscape there, we're going to talk about Kansas basketball in 2020, 2021. We got a list of things, everything from, predicting the starters, which we'll know soon, all the way to how they finish and maybe some bold predictions and things like that. So we're going to jump in with a full-bore Kansas basketball preview podcast here, and we're just going to go until we stop. That's really as simple as it can be. I mean, Jay and I just want you to go until you stop, okay?
I'll try my best.
Okay. I don't want you to stop, though, before you go.
Makes sense.
Okay, good. I'm glad you followed that. So let's just jump in on that first one. I mean, they've got 27 games scheduled right now. And obviously the potential for 3 more in the Big 12 tournament and the potential for 6 more in the NCAA tournament if they made a real deep run. So that's 36. How many games are they going to play? I mean, What do you? I know you guys haven't thought a ton about this, but let's say 36 is the number. Normally it's 40. How many of those?
And that's if you go to the national championship
right,
game, right?
right,
That's absolute
right.
max. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we could just do regular season if you just want to do 27 and just how many of those games are they going to play? Let's start there. That'd probably be better because we'll get into predictions and kind of picking how they're going to finish the season later, and that'll tell that. But let's say of the 27 games currently on their schedule, what's the best guess? How many are they going to play?
I mean, to me, I feel like once we get to conference play, they should be able to manage that pretty well, even if there are postponements and stuff. There should be wiggle room to reschedule. So right there, you got 18, right?
Yep.
Best case scenario, playing
right.
18 conference games. I don't know. I'm going to guess that in the regular season, they play like 22, 23 games, something like that.
Yeah. Shane?
I didn't put too much thought into it, but I think I ultimately decided on, they miss out on one non-conference game for whatever reason. Maybe the other team tests positive, as we mentioned earlier, and then 2 Big 12 games because it would be 1 week. I mean, it feels like there's a chance that, hey, if you had to go into quarantine, you're going to miss multiple Big 12 games. I don't know what the Big 12 wants to do in that scenario. Do you postpone it or whatever it is? But I would say it's safe to assume that if you're going to miss a game in Big 12, you're going to miss probably 2 games. So my guess was 2 Big 12 games and 1 non-conference game they miss.
So Shane goes with 24. Benton goes with 22, 23, somewhere in there. I mean, yeah, I don't think you guys are wrong at all. I've been a little lower, to be completely honest with you. I've been closer to 2021. I just think that I think they will miss some conference games, and I think they will miss some non-conference games. I mean, I think we'll know a lot more this time next week. I mean, a week from today, when we're recording this on a Tuesday, a week from today, they're supposed to be in Indianapolis playing Kentucky. And so if they get there, then they're on their way, right? Then that would be 3 games in, and your biggest travel really is out of the way. You went down to Florida and made it through that, and then you made it to Indy and played that game. That would be that would certainly jack it up and push the number up closer to 27 at that point, because the rest, almost all of them, other than Big 12 games, are in your building in Lawrence. And so again, it could be another team has to pull out or can't make the trip or something like that. And I think that's most likely. I really do. I think that there's going to be a game or two that KU just thinks they're playing a couple nights from now, and then the team calls them and says, hey, we got 4 positive tests. We can't come this weekend, or whatever it is. And I don't know what they'll do then. Especially with the non-conference games, I think they just cancel them. I don't know if there's time to reschedule. I mean, normally you could say, well, hey, let's just get a game. Let's call Fort Hays State, or let's call Emporia State, or whatever. They're already playing Washburn in a week or so. So, but those teams will be in their seasons at that point. It's not like they're just sitting there waiting for a game and waiting for a call. I mean, of course they would love the opportunity to come play Kansas, but they're going to have their own hands full and their own things going. So I think you're probably losing games if that happens. If a North Dakota State or an Omaha or somebody like that says we can't make it, I think you just lose the game and not a loss. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But the game's gone and you move on to the next one. And so the Big 12 part's the most interesting thing here, I think. And Benton, why do you think they'll be able to manage it better in Big 12? Just because of it's the same protocol, and they have the same goal to try to get that whole season in and just try to work with each other easier, or what?
Yeah, I just think because it's all of these conference teams, and they have the same goal in mind of trying to get all these games in, and you're kind of under the same leadership. All these coaches know each other. If you have to get creative to reschedule things, I think they'll try to. It may be a case where too many are missed, and it becomes such an issue with maybe one team has to go 2 weeks without playing, like Shane has mentioned. If you miss one game, you're probably missing 2.
Right.
So it could get complicated to the point where you just don't play your full Big 12 schedule. But to me, I'm a little bit more optimistic that they can actually get that as close to 18 as possible.
Yeah, I think that the I don't think it'll happen. It may still. I guess the first Big 12 game is December 17th in Lubbock. at Texas Tech, and then the next one is home at Allen Fieldhouse against West Virginia on December 22nd. So those are just a few weeks away right now, and then everything after that obviously is in January and beyond. But I really like what volleyball did this season. I thought that was the coolest thing ever to you only went and played away half the time and you only played home half the time, so you didn't get the true home and home. But if you went down to Norman, you played 2 games, and there was your series. You knocked it out in one stop, and then when Texas comes up here, they play twice. And I mean, I just look at West Virginia, right? Like or Lubbock. I mean, KU goes down there December 17th. Shouldn't they play twice while they're there instead of having Texas Tech come back here in February? And you just hope that can happen. Same with West Virginia. I mean, they're already all the way here. Why not play twice while they're here? You could take a day and rest and all that, but get 2 games in. If it's all about getting games in, that's got to be appealing. And it obviously worked great for volleyball. I don't know how seriously they talked about it. I don't know if they'll still talk about it, but I think it would really increase the chances of getting as many games in as possible. And again, West Virginia's already coming all the way here. So you play twice, that's 2 games, 2 for 1, and you don't have to send Kansas across the country to Morgantown a couple months from now, and who knows what it's going to be like. So I'm not predicting that's going to happen. I just think that it'd be really cool if it did, and I think it would give them the best chance of playing all those games for sure. So we'll see. It's going to be really wild. KU's already gone no fans for the rest of the month, and then they extended that yesterday through the first week of December. No fans in Allen Fieldhouse for the first 2 men's games through December 5th. So we're already seeing those types of adjustments. They said in that release yesterday that they're going to assess the rest of December on a week-by-week basis. So that's how that's going to feel. It's going to be, well, what's it look like next week? And then they announce something, and then they talk about it. And I feel like that may be what we get to with the schedule. I mean, I know it's there right now, and you can look at a lot of games and say, well, hey, this team's coming here this day, but man, don't hold your breath on that. I just think this could be a week-by-week thing all season with all things.
Yeah, you mentioned next week and those home dates that KU basketball has. It was really strange to me that in both the message that Gerard posted about them extending it a week, and then Jeff Long's additional thing about what they're going to do with no fans, they didn't mention the men's basketball team. They didn't mention those games in either of those statements or messages. That was bizarre to me. It almost made me wonder, like, are they almost wondering if these games are even going to be played? Like, why are they not talking about them?
Yeah.
It was strange.
Well, and then Coach Self went on and did the social media video standing in an empty Allen Fieldhouse and obviously addressed it there, right? So, it's just I don't think it's so hard to make heads or tails of any of this, right? I mean, and I think the most important thing to remember maybe is that obviously they're in the position of managing all this and scheduling and arranging and making the final call. But it's all new for them too, right? I mean, like this is not something that all of Jeff Long's previous stops ever would have prepared him for. I mean, it's just nobody's prepared for this. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. But let's get into happier things, sunnier topics, more fun. That's what we're here for. Let's talk about the starting 5. Shane, tell me what you're doing this week. Tell people what you're doing this week. I know what you're doing, but tell them.
Oh, okay. I thought you just forgot already. So Bill Self mentioned on Monday that he had 4 people pretty much almost a lock to be in the starting lineup. He said barring some unforeseen circumstance, those are the 4 that are going to be starting on Thursday against Gonzaga. And so I thought it was interesting to figure out who is the 5th starter, because I think there are multiple players that could be the 5th starter. And so what I'm doing is just making a case for each guy of the 3 or 4 contenders leading up to Thursday. Who will be the 5th starter on Thursday. And what I think is interesting about it is I don't actually think whoever is the 5th starter on Thursday is the starter there for the rest of the season. I think it could be, matchup dependent, or maybe a guy earns a job, over the course of the season. And so I don't think it's set in stone. I don't think the race is over come Thursday either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it was that way last year, right? They started the season with trying to play two bigs and kept trying to slam that square peg into the round hole for 2 months or whatever it was, and it just didn't work. And then you kind of saw throughout Big 12 play, well, sometimes it was Isaiah Moss, and he, found his rhythm at times, but then Christian Brown got in there and looked good at times. And so I think that was that way last year when they weren't as deep and didn't have as many options. And this year they're much deeper, many more options that they can go with, different looks, different lineups, entirely different lineups, so I think that'll be fun. The 4 starters he mentioned, in case people don't know, which would surprise me, but the 4 that he mentioned, Marcus Garrett, Ochai Agbaji, Christian Brown, and of course David McCormick. So Shane's looking for a 5th. So is Self, I guess. But Shane, for our purposes, is looking for a 5th to go with those guys. The top 3 options: Bryce Thompson, 5-star freshman; Tyon Grant Foster, JUCO transfer; and Jalen Wilson, redshirt freshman, who really looks good and in some ways has had one of the best camps that they've had maybe on that whole roster. So, Benton, who do you like out of those 3? I really think that's it. I mean, I love DeJuan Harris's role. I think he can play a lot this season, and I think he will. And, of course, everybody loves Mitch Lightfoot. I do think there's a chance that Mitch Lightfoot may have started if Silvio were still here and they were deciding maybe they should still play 2 bigs. I wouldn't have been shocked to see Mitch Lightfoot start one of the first couple of games. Just, a nod to the senior, a guy you trust, some experience out there, that kind of thing. It's easier to put that guy out there than it is a true freshman or a JUCO guy that's still trying to figure it out. So, but yeah, with Silvio gone and obviously them going to 4 guards, there's just no way you can start 2 bigs, the 2 bigs you have basically. So, but I always want to give a shout out to the Mitch Lightfoot fans out there. They are a loyal lot and they deserve the love that they get. So, but anyway, of those 3, Tyon, Bryce Thompson, and Jalen Wilson, who do you like there?
I'm about to blow your mind. I don't like any of those guys.
What?
I like Tristan and Aruna.
Do you
as a
really?
5th starter. I do. I mean, he kind of gives you a little bit of everything, right? Self was just telling us about that the other day during his press conference. Like, Aruna isn't necessarily a great offensive player. He's not necessarily a great defensive player, but he called him kind of a mix between Wilson and Tyon, right?
Yep.
Just one's good at offense. One's better at defense. I don't know. Aruna, to me, I really liked. We didn't get to see a ton of him last year, but sometimes he looked just like he had a great feel for the game. Obviously, kind of knows where to be defensively. Can do stuff passing, and to me, he's just like such a good glue guy that I feel like he would fit in really well with that top 4.
Yeah.
He's not going to come in and like be like, all right, I need to get my shots or anything like that. He could just fit in and kind of keep things going. Now, obviously that may not be the way that they go at the start of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if the further we get along through this year, maybe he's the guy that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't expect it this week at all, but if you told me that was going to happen in January or February, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it is a lot dependent on who plays well with who and how guys fit together, and I think the only thing that'll tell you that is time. I mean, there's so many new guys, and this is a totally different team than last year. So they got to get some games under their belt before they know and before they see. And, obviously any coach, but few do it as much as Self. But any coach will tell you that it doesn't matter who starts. All that matters is that the guys get the minutes they deserve and who's out there at the end and things like that. But Self beats that one into the ground. Anytime we ask about starting lineup, which is what fans want to know, he always make sure to tell us how much we care too much about that, and he just he loves to beat on us for that. So understandable, I get it. But I did ask him this week, if he knew, and this is why Shane's doing this thing, because he said they don't have the 5th guy yet. So I like your answer though. I think that's really interesting. Shane, I don't want to give away your blog series or anything, but you're going to do it either way. You're going to still write the case for all those guys. Yeah. Who do you like? Who would you go with?
I actually liked that answer a lot. And that's the guy I was like low key thinking could be a candidate for it. And then when I asked you about this idea about the case for the fifth starter, you didn't mention him. And I was like, maybe I'm an idiot and I don't know anything.
or maybe you just threw me under the bus. I mean,
so I'm glad that Ben at least is on the same page there. I mean, I don't necessarily think he was, a favorite to start on Thursday either. So I probably wouldn't have written about him as the fifth candidate either. But I think that, like Ben said, he could be, interim could be the guy down the stretch. But no, the guy I wrote about today is who I think is who I would put as the betting favorite to be the fifth starter, because I love gambling on everything. But it's Bryce Thompson. I think there can be expectations too much for freshmen, 5-star freshmen in particular. But Bryce Thompson, the thing that always stands out to me is the way Self talks about his basketball IQ and just how smart he is. And
right.
So right away, that tells me that he can do the little things, like providing help defense or finding the open man. And those seem like important qualities to me when you're talking about the fifth starter. And then I think he adds the element of a, second ball handler, which is something we know Bill Self likes to have, is multiple ball handlers on the floor. And then besides all that, I just think, everybody was really high on his ability to score the basketball, in high school. And if he does reach his potential as a freshman, or as much as he can anyways, I think he does bring out the best version of this year's KU team if he is scoring as well as people think he can.
I love it. I think that's great. I think he fits with any lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can play any style. I think he can go get you buckets if you need them, but I also think he's just as happy to facilitate, set other guys up, play a role, and not worry about getting his or being a star or anything like that. So when you present it like that, it's really easy to like that guy as a starter. I mean, it just is. It's funny because those are two really good answers. I think I would go with, I mean, I don't know that I would go with this guy if I were the head coach, but I think in terms of projecting and guessing what's going to happen, I think I'm going to put my money on Tyon Grant Foster. I just think that we've heard so much about his potential. We've heard so much about his scoring. He obviously gives you things from a length and athleticism perspective that those other guys maybe necessarily can't. I mean, Tristan can, but Self's continued to talk about his motor, right? And him just being, he uses the word casual nonstop. He just needs to see him be less casual, more aggressive. And until he sees that, I don't know that you can make the move yet. Right. And maybe he develops that. He showed some aggression and kind of being in attack mode in that late night scrimmage. It was just one scrimmage. But he showed a willingness to do that. So, if he continues to, and I think earlier this season, I think Self even called him, like a little bit of a sneaky starter, a guy that he wouldn't write out by any means. So, or write off. But yeah, I just think that there's something about the extra scoring punch and just that little bit of maturity that Tyon Grant Foster potentially has. I also think he's a guy that if you can unlock him early and you can find a way to, get him going, maybe that carries into the whole season, and maybe he is everything you want him to be as a dynamic scorer. And one of the best ways to get a guy like that going, I think, is put him in the starting lineup against the number one team in the country and see what he's got and say, hey, it doesn't get in November. It doesn't get bigger. There's not a bigger stage than this. So we're putting you out there as one of our top guys. Go get it. And whether he does or not will determine how much he plays, and it will determine whether he can hold on to that spot and all of that stuff. But I think it's worth the gamble because I think you can always go to Bryce if it doesn't work. If Tyon goes and plays 4 minutes of terrible basketball, well, Bryce can come in right away and maybe he plays 25 minutes from there or something like that. So I just think that's kind of how I see it playing out. But it'd be really tempting to start Bryce Thompson too. I mean, it's a 5-star kid. He's basically family to Bill Self, right? I mean, they're as close as they can get with the family, and you're excited for the kid. So it would be really tempting, I would think, to go ahead and try to do that. But we will know on Thursday, I think, as long as they're out there, as long as they're playing, as long as both teams make it to the arena. Then we'll find out. So I like that. Let's transition a little bit and probably get a few different answers here too. But how about leading scorer? I think Benton wrote a couple of weeks ago about the balance and not this team not needing or really even having a go-to scorer. We've talked about it on this podcast too. but it's time to stop talking about it and make predictions. Shane, I want you to tell me, who are you in your degenerate ways putting your money on as a gambler on the leading scorer for the Kansas men's basketball team?
Yeah, well, if I was setting the odds, I think the betting favorite should be Marcus Garrett. I know both Bill Self and Christian Brown mentioned that David McCormick would probably be their pick. And they mentioned that maybe because the offense runs through him. But I think a lot of those arguments apply to Marcus Garrett as well. I mean, he's the ball handler. His usage is going to be high. And he's going to get to the rim, which means he's going to get on the free throw line. And if we were talking about Bryce Thompson, if he is in the starting lineup, I think Marcus Garrett can move off ball at times and get those driving angles to the rim as well. And this is all without even saying he could improve his long range shot, which I believe could be the case because we've seen players step up in their senior year under Bill Self. So I think there is room for growth for Marcus Garrett, but just his bottom line alone, I think, should have him as the betting favorite to be leading scorer for KU.
Listen, if I could do it all over again and just make this like a 37-second podcast, I would take that answer and I would just post that. I loved that. That was so good, and it was way better than 99% of the rambling that I do, including right now. So I think that's great. The case you made for Marcus Garrett was perfectly laid out. I'm going to interrupt you, Benton, because Garrett's my pick, and that's exactly why. And I'm not even going to say any more than that. I just think that Marcus Garrett has another level. I think he's got potential to be an All-American. I think he's got potential to be Big 12 Player of the Year and the National Player of the Year conversation. I think he can do far more than we've seen, and I think he's ready to. So everything that Shane said, I agree with, and that's why I would pick Marcus Garrett. But I want to hear from Benton, the big man, our resident big man.
Yeah, it's Marcus Garrett.
Oh, wow.
Marcus Garrett's going to lead this team in scoring. Yeah, I know. I didn't think that I thought Shane might go that way. I didn't know we'd all three end up agreeing on this. I really thought we might get 3 different answers, or at least 2 different answers.
I did too. Good thing we didn't write a series about it.
Yeah, I mean, I just have more confidence in who Marcus Garrett is as a basketball player than I do with anybody else on this roster. And this is his team. We've talked about that for a while now. That's completely different. In the past, he was fine being the glue guy, and he'll still be the glue guy sometimes this year too, and facilitate and do things that a non-scoring point guard will do. But he'll also have more opportunities to go seek out his own scoring off the drive. And it seems like they have enough balance and enough of a mixture offensively that he should find opportunities to go score off the bounce and cuts and that type of thing. We're not going to expect him to ever be a 3-point shooter, and that's fine. But I just think between the balanced scoring, I don't think there is going to be anybody that's like dominating in that category. And I think just by the end of the season, Marcus Garrett ends up on top, and he's averaging like 14.5 points a game or something like that.
I love it. I also think his ability to get to the free throw line he could live at the free throw line. He could get 7-8 points a game at the free throw line if that's the way they want to play. I think he's so good at going by guys, and when he gets in there, he either finishes or he gets fouled. And
he's not a great free throw shooter, though.
No, that's true. That is true. And I thought about that actually, because that's something that if he wants to get there and can live there, like I said, then yeah, he's got to make them. Otherwise, that's not doing any good. So. I don't know what his career percentage is, but it's probably not much higher than 65 or something like that. I mean, maybe a little bit, but yeah.
It's got to be lower. It's 57.3.
Career free throw 57.3.
Yeah, wow. He shot 60% last year, and that was his career high.
That's why I thought Ben's point though was great, because this is, the leading scorer is going to average, 14 points a game. We're not saying the leading scorer is going to average 18, 19 points a game. And then the conversation about Marcus Garrett, it becomes less obvious for him a path for him to be the leading scorer, I think, if it's 18, 19, 20 points per game.
Man, Doak must be Marcus Garrett's favorite player. because of Doak's free throw issues, you never really knew that Marcus Garrett was a barely 50% free throw shooter for his career. I mean, when you said it, I knew, he goes up there and misses quite a few, but like I said, 65 was my guess. I'd have never guessed 50-something. Wow. Well, he's got to work on that. Anybody think he shot free throws all summer? My guess is yes, and 3-pointers as well. And, this is a guy that hit 6 3-pointers in a game at one point. So it's not like he can't shoot that shot either. It's just a matter of opportunity. If we each had to take a stab at 1A, the second favorite here, who do you guys like? Are we going to sweep this thing again? I mean, one of you is probably going to say McCormick. I'm not, but who do you guys like as if you couldn't pick Marcus Garrett, who would it be?
Interesting. Shane, who you got?
Well, I think this kind of steals my bold prediction for later, but Tyon Grant Foster would be my second choice, I think. Just the way Bill Self has talked about how he can just go get his. And I actually sneak peek of what my spoiler is going to be of the bold prediction is David McCormick's not in the top 3 for points scored for scoring average. So
Love it. Yeah, I like it. I also like that you read my He Will, He Won't, He Might blog because that's great. I mean, that was my he might, Tyon Grant Foster. He might lead the team in scoring. I like that answer. I'm not going to say him though. Ben, do you have yours? You want to go now?
Yeah, I think like as much as Self has kind of talked up David McCormick, I just can't go against it. Like,
yeah,
in my mind, I kind of think Christian Brown is going to be a really good scorer for this team and might end up like the second leading scorer. But everybody keeps talking about how good McCormick's been. So I mean, if someone had just mentioned it once or twice in passing, but I mean, it's like they're hammering this home. Oh,
they sure are.
We're playing through McCormick. Oh, he's so much better. Oh, he's going to be different than what you saw with Udoka. So I think it's going to be McCormick. It's kind of a boring answer, but
no, it's a good answer.
Seems like that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't go 6 guys and not one of us say McCormick for any of those. I mean, I think that it's opportunity for him too. I mean, because they play through them or through the bigs, he's going to get the touches he needs to potentially lead this team in scoring. It's just a matter of what does he do with them. And how does he handle things? I mean, he's going to see things from defenses that he hasn't seen very much because of Doak and because he's still young the last couple of years. But, now there's a very good likelihood that every time he touches it in the post, he's going to see a trap. And what does he do there? I mean, is he a good passer yet? We don't know. Can he turn and make a move? Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of things we don't know. We do know he can turn and raise up and shoot. I mean, he's done that, and it's a pretty good shot at times. Sometimes he takes bad shots in that way, but there's just, like you said, I mean, there's a lot unknown, but obviously they're seeing him every day, and for them to keep hammering that, I mean, not just Self, but players too, saying this guy's got a chance to be legit. So I'm going to go with Ochai, man. I really am. I mean, I think that's a guy that we haven't mentioned hardly at all yet in 40-some minutes maybe. I just think that that's a kid who is already a pretty good shooter. We know that. He gets good looks. He takes good shots, and continues to work on his jumper to make it as good as it can be. So I like his potential from the outside. I think he's a great free throw shooter. I think he's a guy with a little more attack mode and a little more mentality like that, who can also live at the free throw line a little bit and get some easy points that way. We also know he's, one of their best above the rim players. And I really think that transition is going to be a better thing for him this year. I think with this team, the way they might pressure out with their length and try to force some defensive chaos and things like that, I think that could lead to a lot of breakaway and open layup or 3-on-1 type transition buckets for Ochai. And if he can get those, he doesn't have to shoot a great percentage from 3-point range. He doesn't have to take a bunch of shots, but if he can just get those kinds of baskets, the easy ones, I think that I think he's got a chance to be in that equation. And he's a junior. He's it's a little bit of his team too. I mean, it's definitely Marcus Garrett's team, but there's an ownership that Ochai should be able to take that next step to feeling that ownership in the team too. So I don't know where he would rank in terms of odds. Shane might know. I think we would probably, if all three of us said Garrett, we would probably put Garrett as the favorite. I think we would consensus agree that McCormick's probably the second favorite.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know. I mean, between Tyon and Ochai and Christian Brown, I like that answer, Benton. I think that's a good answer too. Those three guys are probably next in some order. So it's just a matter of what you're expecting. So I don't know.
Ochai probably is ahead because he's just going to get more minutes most likely. I mean, he's
There you
probably second on the team in minutes behind Marcus Garrett. So
yeah, excellent point. That makes a lot of sense. So Ochai would be 3, maybe Tyon 4, and Brown's 4 too. I mean, he's going to start. So yeah, wow, it'd be fun. And then that's not even to say anything about the other guys that could on any given night lead this team in scoring, which would be Jalen Wilson could do it. Tristan could do it on any given night. I think
Bryce
that's probably
Thompson.
Bryce Thompson could do it. There you go. So that's 3 more after the top 5 right there. So it just speaks to that depth and just how good this team has a chance to be. I mean, they got to put all the pieces together. They're not going to be dominant, I don't think, like last year's team by any means, because you had arguably the best point guard in college basketball and without question the best big man and most unstoppable one-on-one player last year. So there felt a bit of dominance that was just, overpowering teams. I don't know that this team will have that, but I think this team has a chance to be just every bit as good. I really do. 28-3 would be a pretty lofty mark, but I could easily see him, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that takes us to let's go to Big 12 finish and talk about the race a little bit. Obviously, Baylor's picked as the preseason favorite. The odds that I've seen anyway have Baylor as the favorite, barely. I think they're like 5-4 and KU's 2-1 or something like that. So, KU's still getting plenty of love there, and KU was picked second. But Baylor, according to almost everybody out there, is the team to beat in the Big 12. Do you guys buy that?
I think a lot of that is because they have so many good players from their core coming back, and KU obviously took a hit with losing Dotson and Udoka. I think that's what kind of created that. Obviously, I don't know as much about like kind of the guys that are going to emerge for Baylor this year as I'm familiar with the guys that we expect to emerge for KU. So I'm sure I'm biased just because of my familiarity, but I do think KU is going to be a little bit better. I think both teams will be really good again, but I don't think KU is going to be nearly as good defensively because that was an elite defensive team.
Yeah,
year.
there's no doubt.
But it's going to be like you said, they can dominate in a different way. I mean, it might just be everybody can score, and you really have to defend the entire floor, and that's tough to do. So I do think it's going to be a tight race again, but I do think KU is going to end up on top, and I wouldn't be if they're able to play 18 games. Maybe you go 15-3, something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess. I think I kind of had it at 14-4, something like that, same idea. But I just think that, again, you said it best. I don't know Baylor's personnel inside and out. I know everybody that's coming back, and I know what they lost, and they're obviously very talented. But I just think that that KU has the opportunity, in my opinion, to endure an off night or 2 or 3. I mean, again, if you have a night where Ochai doesn't have it, and you have a night where Christian Brown doesn't have it, and you have a night where David McCormick's maybe not even that good, well, you could go and you could find Tyon Grant Foster, Jalen Wilson off the bench. You could have Marcus Garrett go nuts. I mean, like, there just seems to me, and let's be honest, what are the odds that Christian Brown, Ochai, and David McCormick are all going to be off on the same night? I mean, it's just doesn't seem like it's very likely that you're going to have all 3 of those guys or multiple guys struggling in a given night. But if they do, I think KU's depth and just the versatility and the way they play, I think will be much, much easier to make up for that than maybe most teams in the country. I think that this is one of the best 1 through 10 rosters that I can remember seeing. Obviously they had some talented teams and have had depth before, but they've also had plenty of years where they only play 6 or 7, and this will not be one of those. I don't think. I think these guys. You always hear about KU's second 5 could finish top half of the Big 12, right? People love saying that one. I mean, I think this second 5 could be really good. So it really shows you just how much there is here. Shane, what do you think? Big 12 finish for Kansas? Are you picking them to finish 5th or anything like that?
Well, I'm a coward, and I kind of default to Vegas and KenPom in these scenarios. Just because
I love it.
So I actually would say KU finishes 2nd, and it'd be somewhere like 13-5 of a Big 12 conference record. Because I mean, Texas Tech is supposed to be good.
Yeah.
West Virginia, Texas is going to be in the mix as well. Like, it's going to be a tough league, as it always is. And so it wouldn't surprise me, if Baylor wins this with 14-4, and KU is right in the mix at 13-5, and the other teams are 12-6. The other competitors are 12-6, and so that's what I would predict right now. But maybe that changes in a couple weeks because you see a few games of KU and you're like, okay, maybe this is as good as advertised. It does seem hard to believe that, given what we saw last year, they'll be close to that. And maybe again, like you guys have said, they'll find a way to succeed in a different way.
Yeah, Shane brings up a good point. I've been so entrenched with football, I kind of forgot that KenPom is in love with the Big 12.
Yeah, right.
So what are there, 5 teams in the top 10 or something ridiculous
10,
like that? Yeah. So I mean, if it is indeed that good of a league, you're not going to go 15-3. So
I agree with that. And KU 17-1 last year, is that right?
Yeah.
That's insane.
That was all defense.
Yeah, right. When you only have to score 55 points and you're going to win.
Yep.
That's a pretty good chance you're going to win most games. But yeah, that's it. 17-1 is insane. 15-3 is insane. I mean, that's really good in that conference. And we both kind of just threw that out like, oh, that probably go this. No, yeah. I think Shane's probably closer. I don't see the league winner going 12-6 though. I don't think it's as good as it is. I think there will be some separation. But you said it, 14-4 is probably, if someone can get to 14 wins, they're probably going to win the league, no matter who that team is. I mean, that's pretty darn good. 13-5 could do it too. So, yeah, I hope the league's as good as KenPom thinks it is, because that would be, talk about no off nights. That would be fantastic. And I think most of the rest of those teams too aren't like woefully ranked. I don't remember where they were. I looked at the time when he first released his rankings, but my God,
and Oklahoma State has a guy in Cade Cunningham that I heard, Mike Schmidt said he would have been the number 1 pick in this year's draft.
Right.
Ahead of, that top 3 that everybody was talking about for this year. So, and he's probably going to go number 1. At least that's how it looks like right now.
Yeah.
That could change. Everybody loved James Wiseman a year ago. And that kind
he went 2.
Well, yeah. He seemed like a lock for number 1. And now, I mean, by the time the draft got here, it was like, I don't know.
I know. I agree with that. Yeah. I still don't know how he didn't. I mean, Edwards is really good, but geez, Wiseman's different, man. But anyway, before we get back to Lakers talk, let's stay focused here. Okay. Well, we got one bold prediction to finish. Maybe Shane already teased it. I don't really have any, so we can kind of talk it out. I'm sure I'll think of something. But before we get to that, let's talk about where the season ends. How far do they get? We already – it seems like we all agree they're going to finish 1 or 2 in the Big 12. Generally speaking, that's going to make you a 1 or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, we think this is a team that has a chance to be really good, with a, 20-win season pretty easily, if not more. So what does that make? What does that deliver? Where do they go from there? Shane, do they have a run in them? I mean, can they do that whole unfinished business thing and put this team back on the track to the Final Four like everyone believed last year's team was?
Well, again, because I'm a coward, I won't predict that by any means. But I mean, I don't even think, you probably would have last year, but going into the tournament. But before last year started, I don't think I would have said, hey, this team's going to go to the Final Four. So I think I again, didn't put too much thought into it, but I said a really good 2 seed that's probably going to make it to, the Elite 8. Like that feels like a reasonable prediction for the season without really knowing a whole lot. Because, we haven't watched this team. I mean, we haven't seen exhibition games. Right. The extent of my knowledge of this team is reading your he will, he won't, he might. So for that reason alone, I'm excited to watch an actual basketball game. But yeah, that would be my official prediction before the season started.
A 2 seed in the Elite Eight, another Elite Eight loss then, huh? You coward. No, I like it. Who's going to argue with that? Obviously Self and the players would say, no, we want to go to the national championship game. But I think if you told them today, hey, you're going to end up in the Elite Eight, they would say, cool, we're in. We'll see what happens. But anybody would take that, right? I mean, that's not exactly a bold prediction there either. So, Ben, what do you got? How far do they get?
Yeah, I kind of had Elite Eight in mind too when I was kind of thinking about this team. I think just because it's such a different like makeup from last year's team. Like last year's team, I thought, Final Four lock basically because they were so good defensively.
Right.
And I mean, we're just right now, we're all very optimistic about what this team can do and its balance. But the fact of the matter is, we haven't seen them prove it that they can do that yet. So to me, there's just enough unknown about it that I want to kind of cap my expectations at like an Elite Eight run, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. That means you're right on the cusp of another Final Four berth. And I don't know. I think it's obviously going to be just a crazy dumb year for college basketball, right? Because like we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, games are going to be canceled. Teams are probably going to be heading into the selection Sunday. Well, who knows if it'll even be on a Sunday this year? Maybe they'll do selection Wednesday because they have to because of a pandemic.
Yeah, no telling.
But yeah, I mean, like, how are you going to like gauge resumes? How are there going to be teams that just don't have so many disruptions that they lose a lot in December and January, and then they're hot and at the end of the year and you catch somebody at the wrong time? I mean, just so many variables. But obviously we all think KU is going to be very good and a legit national title contender again. But as we've seen, you can't win the national title every year. You can't make the Final Four every year. And right. KU kind of got robbed last year, unfortunately, because of the circumstances, because that was a team poised to do something special.
Well said. I think that's dead on. And as you were talking, I figured out I do have a bold prediction, and it kind of ties into this one. I think they're a Final Four team. I think they will show that in time. I don't think maybe you'll think that in the first month of the season. I don't think it'll be automatic anyway, but I think they're going to win Thursday. And again, it's just all, for me, it's almost all tied up in the idea of just how highly I think of Marcus Garrett. I mean, I just believe that guy as a leader. I believe in him as a player. I think that he is so prepared for whatever he needs to do to lead a team to that type of run. And when he was on the 2018 team as a young pup, he was on a Final Four team. So even though he wasn't a huge part of that team, he played a big role. And my goodness, he knows what it takes. So I think in time, I think by mid to late January, people will start to see that this team is close to as good defensively as they were last year. Close. Close. Yeah. Different, but close, because I think their length and the way they can throw fresh bodies out there and just I just think they're above the perimeter. Defense can be so good. It can be so frustrating for offenses. I mean, they're gonna make teams start so high. They'll run their stuff from the circle at midcourt. I mean, it's going to be a suffocating thing, I think. And so I think they can be close, and I think they'll be a much better team offensively in terms of versatility and depth and all those things that we've already talked about. So you add those things up, and I think they're a Final Four team. The bold prediction, though, is I think there's a good chance that there's 32 or 36 teams in the NCAA tournament this year. And
wow.
So to get to the Final Four, you may not have to win 4 games. You may only have to win a couple, and asterisk and whatever you want to put for the rest of the time. But I don't, I mean, it's kind of like the Lakers title coming back to the Lakers. It's like they're going to hang a banner, right? Nobody's going to say they didn't win it this year. And And I think it's the same way for Major League Baseball and the short season that they played and all that. So I just think that even if there's only a 32 or 36 team NCAA tournament and they still get to the Final Four, they're still a Final Four team. They're still going to hang a banner and all that stuff. So that's my bold prediction. But I think they're definitely good enough to get there. And you know, you can't say you'd be surprised if they don't. But I think this team has just enough mixture of experience and veterans and drive and hunger from that, with talent, with maybe a couple of guys on the cusp of breakout seasons like a David McCormick or like a Christian Brown, that I just love the mix. And I think they're going to be really hard to deal with.
Does that mean Benton and I get to take credit, though, if there's only 36 teams and they make it to the Final Four? Because that's, I mean, technically by number of wins.
Great point.
Elite Eight. So I'm just
This is
saying,
a very good
can
point.
we all be right in this scenario?
I will think about that. I will think about it.
We don't need to think about it. Shay nailed it.
Oh, I'm done. I thought about it. Nope. No, we'll discuss that. Okay, we'll discuss that at a later date. But
Can we talk about that real quick? What makes you think that they'll have fewer teams in the field this year?
just the pandemic, man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that number one, they're already talking about trying to put it all in Indy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And probably are going to do that. So, you've got a limited space. You've got limited gym usage available. You've got, limited hotel space. As much as Indy would probably love to host the entire tournament, they probably don't want thousands of people coming into their town, right, during a pandemic. So I just think, I don't know how they do it. And maybe they don't. Maybe it's as simple as, it's only cut to 64 and there's no play-in game this year, or there's no first four this year. And the bold prediction is 32 or 36, something like that. I think a less bold but maybe safe prediction would be it's back to 64 this year, because no need to have the first four. You're already losing the Ivy League. They're not playing, so that's an automatic bid right there. So now you'd only be penalizing 3 teams. There's a chance that another conference or 2 might not be able to play as this thing continues to go on, or could shut down, right? And if they do that, now there's another automatic bid and another automatic bid. And so 64 seems like a good number for this crazy time. But I just think that, when you're looking at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, you're looking at Lucas Oil Stadium, you're looking at Hinkle, where Butler plays, IUPUI is in Indianapolis. I don't know what their gym's like, but you're not putting fans in there, right? You're not putting Superdome type of crowds in there like traditionally you do at these events. So you don't have to worry about that as much. You just have to have a place to play, and a handful of fans. But that's just the feeling I have. I mean, I just kind of think that this year's starting so strangely, and it has been so weird. Why would it stop, right? I mean, eventually we'll be through this and we'll get back to normal whenever that is. But I think if you start the college basketball season under some uncertainty, it's probably going to stay that way. And so that would be my bold prediction. Whether it happens or not, I certainly hope not. There's nothing better than the actual tournament. And it would, it'd be tough. It'd be tough if they could only do 32. That's a lot of teams missing out on an opportunity. And there's obviously a lot of money that you're missing out on, because that's half the games, right, that you could televise and things like that. So there's no way they want to do that. I just feel like it's certainly in the cards, or on the table, I guess is a better way to put it. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen, but that's where it comes from. Long answer. Shane, bold prediction. Did you give it?
No. Well, I guess I kind of teased it. I first off, I had 2, because I'm deathly afraid of just agreeing with Benton and Matt roasting me. So the second one was Marcus Garrett for Big 12 Player of the Year, which doesn't sound that bold because the way you guys talked about him. I thought I was going to be the highest on him, but between you two, I might be third on the list.
But yet another he will, he won't, he might. Cheers, my friend. No, I love it. Big 12 Player of the Year, Marcus Garrett. It's got a ring to it. No, that might be bold if you talk nationally, but it's not bold in this in this 3-windowed podcast.
The first one, which is the real bold prediction, and it feels bold based off the way Self and Christian Brown talked yesterday, but I don't think David McCormick finishes in the top 3 in scoring average on this team. I had Marcus Garrett, Tyon Grant Foster, and Ochai as the top 3 of my quick prediction of that list, and I think David McCormick is 4th or 5th or whatever that is ends up being. I just think Ochai and Marcus alone are going to play a lot of minutes, and I think they'll get an opportunity to score. And then the way that we have talked or heard about Tyon Grant Foster, I just think he's going to be in the mix as well. So my bold prediction is that David McCormick, even though what Self and Christian said the other day, I just don't think he's in the top 3 in scoring average. Might be wrong based off the way they talked about him, though.
That's why it's bold.
Yeah.
I like it. That is bold. And, the other thing that makes it bold is McCormick is a good free throw shooter. And if he gets to the free throw line a lot, he's getting free points easy that way. So, but I like it. I mean, Christian Brown's another guy that Benton mentioned that I agree with that could crack that top 3 in scoring. And, it's not like the road is paved in gold for McCormick to just automatically be there. He's going to have to not only earn it by his play, but he's going to have to beat out some of his guys. And that'll be really interesting to see. Benton, we've gone over an hour, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we're going to let you finish it off with one bold prediction. And if you don't have one, it's going to be the most disappointing ending in the history of KU Sports podcasts. So I'm putting all the pressure on you right now to finish this thing off with one bold prediction for the Kansas men's basketball 2020-2021 season. Go.
Okay. My bold prediction, which I kind of came to the conclusion of while we were talking in the
Perfect.
past.
Those are the best ones.
Yep. Is that Christian Brown will lead the Big 12 in 3-point shooting. He's going to be the best 3-point shooter in the Big 12 this year.
Love it.
Obviously, great form. Got the length, can rise up, and he was actually pretty good last year as a freshman, and now he's going to be a lot more confident. He's going to be in a position where I do think he could potentially be the number 2 scorer on this team.
Yeah.
He has the potential to drive past you too. So I mean, that's the thing that kind of I think can separate him. Obviously, great shooter, but also he can do more than one thing. He's not just a catch and shoot and that's all I can do type of player, right?
No, he likes dunking on
He
guys.
likes driving baseline from that corner too. So that's my bold prediction. He kind of emerges as one of the best 3-point shooters in the country and the best one in the Big 12.
That is bold. I mean, to say he's the best on KU's team isn't as bold, but in the conference, that's legit. You held up your end of the bargain there. You delivered on our way out the door. So I appreciate it. It's a great answer. I think he's got a big year coming, and I mean, he's got range. This is a kid who spent really the first 2 months of last season still getting comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He won't have to do that this year, right? He's going to step on the floor day one and feel good and know that he should take good shots and know that he should attack and all those things that he had to learn last year. They're there from day one right now. So I think that's a great answer. I think that is bold. I think Shane's is bold. I think mine was bold. Maybe.
Yeah, yours was definitely bold. You blew my mind with that one.
All right. Well, we started with Benton blowing your mind on Tristan Enaruna in the starting lineup. We ended with my blowing your mind on a potential 32-team tournament, and we had a lot of fun in between. So
we talked at least 40 minutes of Lakers.
Yeah, we could. You guys got 10 more minutes to go in on the all-time greatest Lakers sixth men.
Hey, let's do a deep dive into Wes Matthews while we're here.
There you go. I like that. Oh gosh, I just got the warning that our time's up. That sucks. Sorry, Shane. Next time on the Lakers podcast at KUsports.com. For Shane Jackson and Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tate. Thanks for checking out the KU Sports Hour, this Kansas basketball preview podcast, and it is go time. We'll have all your coverage Thursday when KU plays number 1 Gonzaga, Friday when they play St. Joe, and the rest of the season from there, whatever that may look like. Thanks for checking out this episode. We'll talk to you guys again real soon on another one, and take care of yourselves. Happy Thanksgiving. Be smart. Be safe. Be happy. Talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.